Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of The Real Podcasters, the show where we talk all things movies, TV shows, video games, and a bunch of other things in no particular order. I just slowed right down there for some reason, I don't know why. My name's Regan, as ever, and I'm joined by my hideous haircut of a co-host. I'm so sorry, Dan. Yeah, it's Dan. He's back.
Hi. Ow.
Which is what you probably said when they sort of sheared off like two-thirds of your hair.
No, actually, it was done very, very quickly. Like, honestly, it was like, done.
For those that can't see, Dan has a mohawk again. And I haven't seen him in a mohawk since, like, pre-COVID, if I'm honest.
Yeah. It's been a long time since I've had a Mohican. Last ever time Reagan saw me with a Mohican was in college.
So we're going back 4 years.
Yeah, going back to the dark times.
Oh, they were dark times indeed. So technically there has been a little bit of a break between episodes, not deliberately. Last week I did record an episode with my good friend Jordan about Star Wars Battlefront 2. That was fun to say the least, but my audio clearly wasn't a fan of it, and I've not been able to fix it since. So technically this is now episode 49 instead of episode 50, which is annoying because I thought it would have been a better time to talk about it for episode 50.
It's episode 49. Yeah.
49.2 we'll go with. So technically, last episode, I believe, was Shazam! Fury of the Gods, which was a tiring one, which I've just seen actually is, according to box office, is actually set to lose about $150 million.
Ooh.
That's more than the budget of the film.
Ouch.
Again, I liked it. For what it is. I might go and watch it again next week because I think it's coming to concert next week, so I might do. But yeah, hopefully this time we're both slightly more alive compared to last time, because I think we were both just knackered about talking about superhero stuff again.
Yeah, but I'm kind of pleased though that, like, when we did talk about it, it wasn't like excruciating, because it wasn't too bad.
No, it wasn't. Yeah, it was. I've seen way worse. Which technically, some films on in today's topic will very much be the case.
Yes.
Now, this week we are talking about. This is not me stealing from Graveyard Chit Chat, our sister podcast that's hosted by Dan.
It's not.
But it's very, very similar. That one would assume it's been like thieved. So we are doing the the top 5 guilty pleasure films.
Bloody scoundrel.
So, are you quite finished?
No.
Good. But I suppose before we get into that, because the Star Wars Battlefront 2 thing didn't go out, Dan initially was going to appear in the episode, but then because you've had to play the game through mouse and keyboard, which sounds like a disease, frankly, it sounds like a condition, you opted to not bother because there wasn't much you could say, because frankly playing it was just a chore. Now, obviously it's been 2 weeks, I think, since I last actually spoke to you like this. So, how has it actually been for you in the last fortnight? Not fortnight.
Well,
last 2 weeks.
When you came to me with the idea that we would do it, I thought, yeah, no problem. And because the game was like really cheap on Steam, I mean, it was on sale for like a couple of quid, like literally £2, I think it was.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. So I thought, okay, well, I've never played this, and by the way, I'm not a huge fan of like Star Wars games at all. Like, I played the Force Unleashed games and just, played them, never ever bothered playing them again. So when I got to this 2002 game, I thought, okay, 2005, yeah, close enough.
Disgusting.
Early 2000s. We're in that kind of territory game-wise.
Yes.
So the annoying thing with being a PC gamer is that some games you get are only just keyboard and mouse, which doesn't sound too bad because, with an old game, it's not too bad controls-wise. However, this game is just a pain in the absolute Ewok.
A pain in the Ewok, which is what you were trying to do to the Ewok, but you could not.
So, it basically, if you've played on keyboard and mouse, you know that the keys WASD are to move, the mouse 1, so the left side of your mouse is to shoot, the other side is to do your secondary action, and the mouse wheel, you click it to use the scope.
Okay.
Now, that doesn't sound too bad, so when you're actually doing the, like, you know, when you're doing the objective missions, Regan, so when you know, go to, you know, I don't know, you go to Kashyyyk or something like that, that part is fine. The space missions, though, no.
Yeah, we had a very interesting conversation about that because I think I still enjoy doing them, if I'm honest, but because I've been playing it for so long, I just know that, okay, the first thing you do is you go for the bomber, and then you just bomb everything in sight before until you hit 180. You don't do anything else. You don't go for like a Jedi Starfighter because it's pointless. You don't pick the gunship because sod that.
Like, because obviously before you go to Kashyyyk, you do like the little space mission, and you basically have to destroy a load of like frigates. Yeah. And, you know, that doesn't sound too bad, but again, playing on mouse and keyboard and the key configurations to, like, basically, like, evade and stuff like that are just horrendous. Like, it's like Control-D and then, like, left or right on the arrow keys. No. That is just too complex for my knowledge, or why, like, most
and it's
PC
from
gamers.
2005.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I was, like, really praying I could use my controller, because I could actually use it in the main menu to, like, go between, like, different options, like, you know, the multiplayer or whatever the options. I was like, oh, I can use my controller. Get in game, can't use controller. I'm like,
yeah.
Okay, I'll give it a shot. I will say that, like, the space missions I didn't enjoy, and that's solely because it was keyboard and mouse. It just made everything so tiresome. I think I actually ended up bypassing the Kashyyyk space mission because it was doing my head in.
To be honest, I don't really blame you, to be honest. I mean, I was curious as to what your overall feelings were actually going to be on it, especially considering that it is years later, and also because you're not nearly as big on, like, even like the wider franchise anyway, compared to me, so it's like, that's why I didn't immediately assume that I'd put all that on you, because even though I gave you 3 seasons worth of that, as I'll keep on referencing, even though we said we'd stop.
I will also say the objective sideness to it, I'm not too big on it. Like, I'm not a fan of, like, objective-based games. I just prefer, like, RPGs and FPSs. I don't mind it, but I pretty much gave up on whatever mission it is where you basically have to just go into the Jedi Temple and just stop the Jedi from destroying the bookshelves. It is so annoying.
I mean, I quite like the concept of that mission, but yeah, blowing up the bookcases is kind of pointless.
I absolutely hate it because they are just stupidly overpowered. I'm just a little clone trooper with me little pew-pew. They have a laser sword that they can just throw at me. I'm just like, well, great. And by the way, like, never, ever, ever get cocky when playing as the Jedi on keyboard and mouse, because honestly, you're just going to yeet yourself off the edge of the map. I did that twice. On Kashyyyk, when you do a couple of the objectives, you obviously get the opportunity to play as the Jedi. In this case, you play as Yoda. Now, I thought, oh, wicked. Agile little Yoda. All was going absolutely swimmingly until I decided to basically yeet myself under a spider droid and just got sent halfway across the ocean. I got trotted on by a feckin' spider droid.
Of all things. Such a Padawan, honestly.
Of all things. Like, that is the biggest insult to Yoda ever. Gets killed by a robotic spider.
I mean, like, there's ways to go. I mean, I can think of worse, especially in the film that it's based on. There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
Most of them revolving around bloody Tamara Morrison's face. I love his face.
I will say that there are definitely some missions that I did enjoy playing. Kashyyyk, definitely, I really enjoyed that. Not the space side of it, though. Ooh, no.
No.
A couple of ones before that, because they were pretty short and sweet, and they were good fun. I don't like playing as, like, again, it's just my like personal pick with like gaming. Really, I don't like class games where you have like different classes and stuff like that. Like, I mean, I use the clone commando a lot because the chain gun thing is just sort of ideal for taking down a tank at a distance, and you just don't really want to get murked by loads of droids.
Surprisingly enough.
Yeah, and can I just say, it's no the wonder that they just get the they just get what they deserve, really, because let's face it, they can't even walk in a straight line, most of them. Like, no, honestly, I'm just trying to like shoot, like as a heavy clone trooper with the RPG thing. I'm just trying to shoot this tank in the distance, and there's like some clone trooper like, "I'll do it, guys!" Boom, and then you just see like the little clone body go whee. And then, like, your, like, how many units you've got, you just say, like, 55, then goes down to 54, and it's like, Dan killed unit. I'm like, well, it's your own fault. You shouldn't have walked in front of me. Clone number 669.
Wow. You just assumed his number.
Yes, I did. But yeah, I haven't really played it since. I kind of just gave up after that. I was like, yeah, I can't be bothered now.
Yeah, to be honest, I think even just based on issues with controls, I think that's absolutely fine.
Yeah, maybe if it was, I mean, surely there's probably like a mod or plugin that just allows like controller, but I just wanted to like play the game and get it over with. I didn't really want to mess around with like modding and stuff like that just yet.
Which is ironic because it's actually pretty easy to, because the developers actually put out the modding tools.
Oh yeah, it's easy as hell, the mod, but I just like, I just want to play the game, really. I don't really. But maybe if it was like controller compatible, just up the front without modding, then maybe I would have liked it, and maybe I would have got a bit more further in it. But not something I really would play again. I tried.
You did, and I very much appreciate it. As I say, I certainly wasn't anticipating you doing it, so that was certainly a nice surprise. But yeah, that's a shame, but it happens.
Yes.
I mean, you know, it's happened often enough with me trying to recommend you things. But yes, back to our scheduled programming, talking about the top 5 guilty pleasure films, which I thought would just be like a nice little fun kind of discussion kind of thing, because I think after 2 movie reviews of superhero stuff, I'm like, I want something just a little bit more laid back and silly. Which is what Ant-Man 3 was trying to be, but it was shite. So it's different. Whereas for these 10 films, everyone else thinks it's shite. We understand that they think it's shite, but we don't care. That's like your general premise of a guilty pleasure film. I believe this will be probably one of the first times ever on any of our ranking listings on both podcasts where I don't think any of us will have the exact same film. I don't think it's
wouldn't
possible.
think so. I really did struggle with this list. I'm not gonna lie. Like,
oh yeah, I struggled
3 down.
Well, I mean, funny enough, the top 2 are the same director.
All right.
But you already know the top one, I think, because you hate the film. But don't say anything. But then the other 3, well, number 3 was actually obvious after a little while, and 4 and 5, I nearly just said what the film was.
Right.
4 and 5 is taking about a week to actually be like, oh yeah, actually I will go with those ones. But yeah, I thought this would be a little bit fun. So we'll just alternate between 5, 5, 4, 4, blah blah blah. Pretty easy.
Yes.
So yeah, let's just get into it. So we'll kick things off with Dan's 5th favourite guilty pleasure film. I'm terrified.
So I've ranked this in terms of how much I would watch it. Like, if I'm going to rewatch a guilty pleasure film, like, obviously number 1 is the one that I'm just going to probably watch the most. Number 5 is something that I'd maybe watch, like, once a month kind of thing. So, surprise, surprise, these are all horror films, by the way.
Well, I kind of figured.
So we're kicking things off.
Because, you are obviously allergic to any other genre.
Well, yeah, clearly. So we're kicking off with the original Terrifier film.
Oof. That's not guilty pleasure, it's a shite. Case in point. We're actually just going to be offending each other now.
Yeah. So if you haven't listened to our Graveyard Chit Chat episode, Terrifying 2, Regan just basically just roast these films. So if you want to listen to that, go ahead and listen to it.
I grilled the film about as much as Art the Clown would probably do to one of his victims.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, yeah, this is a film that I kind of just watch every like couple of months or so, not necessarily paying attention to all the way. It's just something I really put on in the background, or like, you know, like do other stuff, or like maybe like I'll watch like half of it and then like watch something else and then go back to it. It's just that sort of film, really. I still have to hand it that it's just a really grim film still.
I mean, yeah, and then some. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's a pretty bleak film. If you're not a fan of body horror, can't say I'd recommend this film to you. Like, don't.
Well, I mean, there's body horror like David Cronenberg, and then there's body horror like Terrifier. Was it?
Yeah, I think they're on different sort of planes, really. Like, David Cronenberg is just sort of pushing the boat out a bit. Terrifier, Tiergott, is shooting the boat down, sinking it.
Yeah, it is actually just like sinking the entire boat.
Yeah, just yeah, so it's a film that I can just easily rewatch. I don't really have to really think about too much of it. I know what happens, and I do enjoy giving it a watch every now and again. I might watch it next month. Enough. You never really know, but yeah, that's my number 5 pick.
Number 5 for me. Now, this is the one that I had to think about really, really hard, because it's weird for me, especially as I've gotten older. I've become decidedly more cynical. So, like, the idea of a guilty pleasure movie is quite difficult now. So, this is the only one. This is the newest one. Everything else is, like, pre-2010.
Right.
Funnily enough. So, a lot of it is, like, childhood stuff. This is, like, 2 years ago. Or rather, like a year and a half, if I want to be specific. It's actually a film that me and you saw. So... this one might not be nearly as much of a guilty pleasure as I think it is. I think he's figured it out. I've actually...
If this is Halloween Ends, I swear to God.
It's not Halloween Ends.
Oh, thank God for that.
It's Halloween Kills.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine.
Oh, you see, so mine's fine, but obviously yours isn't.
That's fine.
No, well, because here's the thing, because I like Halloween Ends for the most part, but I don't think it's a very good film. Like, I don't.
Yeah.
Whereas with Halloween Kills, no one likes that one. Like, even
it's funny that like absolutely loads of people really hated this film, but I think it's like one of the better Halloween films.
I mean, I also still think that, but then I'm not big on that entire franchise anyway, because most.
I mean, this is just... like, I suppose you are like in absolute heresy territory to some people because you think it's better than the original film.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it's one of those things that I can totally see why people don't like it, because let's face it, Haddonfield is just a town that's just full of idiots. And this film absolutely reinforces that. Just like, you know what, Michael Myers coming down the street, I'm gonna take my iron and I'm gonna hit him with it. I'm gonna whirl it around his head and slam it off him. No, actually, you're gonna die immediately, you idiot.
It's like, it's just that one background character though with the goddamn eye. Like, everybody else has like some tool of, like, you know, stabbing or bludgeoning. Yeah, and then like Doris, it was just like in the middle of iron, and she's like, "Oh, Michael Myers, I'll be right back, kids."
Oh no, it's another serial killer out on the loose. Well, it's time again. plot twist. Doris is actually the most vicious person in Haddonfield outside of Michael Myers. She should have been the protagonist for Halloween Ends. Shouldn't have been Corey. Should have been Doris.
Yeah, I was actually quite close to putting Halloween Kills on my list, but I was making a promise to myself that I'm not going to put any Halloween films on this list for once.
You absolute liar.
I actually haven't. I promise. I cross my heart.
Okay. 49 episodes. Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, Halloween Kills, I do still like. It's probably the closest to not being a guilty pleasure thing, because I still enjoy it for what it is, even if it is remarkably stupid, which is pretty much the case for actually all the films on my list. So, but yeah, that's my number 5. Obviously, number 4 for Dan is probably the original Halloween. One can only hope that he's actually been playing the long game and he actually despises this entire franchise and he thinks it's absolute garbage.
Okay. So for number 4, I went with a Hellraiser film. I've went with Hellraiser 2, or Hellbound Hellraiser 2.
I'm actively trying to remember what my overall feelings on that was. I don't think I was big on it, and I think I might have preferred 3.
Your hot take was actually you preferred 3 to 2.
That seems fair.
Yeah, again, much like with Terrifier, it's a film that I can just revisit very easily, and I still quite like it, despite some very ropey stuff in it. I hate the one-liner stuff between the Dr. Chenard's Cenobite and, you know, when he's going around the hospital and stuff like that. I really hate all that stuff. It's cringy as hell. The doctor is in. Ugh, no.
You will die.
And I like the fact that, like, you actually get a look into the Cenobite lair, the labyrinth. It's very basic, though. Like, it's just corridors and, like, a room. There's nothing really much to it. Like, if you want to look at more stuff like that, just go read Clive Barker's comic stuff like that. It's so much better in a lot more detail than this. Like, it's fine. There's some stuff. I mean, the Cenobites are cool. You know, Pinhead, obviously, and you're learning that Pinhead was once an actual human being, and, you know, coming in contact with the box, he became the priest of hell, etc., etc. Yeah, it's a pretty decent watch. I mean, like, obviously the first one is just the best. It's like one of the best horror films, full stop, let alone like the best Hellraiser film.
I mean, there isn't much competition, frankly, and I've only seen 2 other ones. Well, no, sorry, I'd say like 3, because of the remake, reboot, sequel, crappy thing last year.
I kind of rated it the same, really, but I don't know. I think I'd probably still prefer Hellbound, to be honest.
I also would, if I'm honest. Okay, yeah, that's a fair one. Number 4 is one that I have loved for years. And again, it's as to be expected. I totally get why people wouldn't like it. Number 4 is Superhero Movie from 2007 or 8, whichever one it is. I think it's 2008. So this one was actually directed by Craig Mathison, who recently did The Last of Us and Chernobyl.
Oh.
This is where he started.
Right.
In a spoof movie that no one likes.
I can't say I've seen it, like, but I know that a lot of people don't like it.
So instead of, because, you know, given the time period, it's satirized. I mean, like, it's doing a parody of Spider-Man, Batman Begins, X-Men, I think a bit of Fantastic Four, and a bunch of other things as well. Namely, with the main superhero, it's not Spider-Man, it's the Dragonfly. You haven't got the Green Goblin, you've got the Hourglass, and his like line is like, "I am the Hourglass, and your time is up." And he just has a lot of time puns, but he's played by Christopher McDonald, who I actually knew from Happy Gilmore as the rival in Happy Gilmore, and it's just like, oh, it's perfect. There's one slight issue. Drake Bell is the lead, and, well, some stuff came to light about him in the last couple of years. Not a nice chap, it turns out. That's being generous. That being said, he actually is still pretty good in the film, if I'm honest. It is ludicrously stupid. The humour is quite crass at times. There's a overly long subplot with Stephen Hawking. That's, I'm not gonna lie, I feel really bad every single time I laugh at it, because it's like really, really funny.
Yeah, you know what it is. I can imagine it just going in the direction of like Little Britain and stuff like that. I can probably imagine it going in that sort of direction.
Well, I mean, given the title and the poster, where it's just from, it's like in a theater, much like with Scary Movie, just replaced with superheroes. But you've also got Leslie Nielsen in it, and he's as like the Uncle Ben kind of type,
right?
And it's brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant. I think there's like a moment where like the dragonfly's talking to him, and he's just like, okay, throw as many punches as you want, and I'm gonna bet you $100 you don't land one. So he punches his friend instead. He's like, okay, fine, there you go. Again, it's like, I know that people really don't like it, but to be honest, it's not nearly as like ridiculously stupid as some of the scary movie stuff. Like, it is actually quite clever with some of its comedy. Like,
Scary Movie is just a whole level of silly.
I mean, like, there's no just chilling and killing, unfortunately.
There's no sheriffs with like an ever-growing larger hat that just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
I'm afraid not now. But there is a moment with Stephen Hawking falling into a science experiment thing with a load of bees. That's funny. Because the film tells us it's funny.
Right.
Again, I'm not really selling it because it's a bit difficult to.
Yeah.
I've always loved this. If only, I think, because I've seen the teaser trailer on like some other DVD when I was a kid, and it's just like a parody of the alleyway fight in the first Spider-Man in the rain, and he's just giving people wedgies and hurling them against walls. But he's looking all like badass and sort of like staring at yeah. I can't really sell it very well, as you can probably tell.
I mean, you've done a damn sight better than like I ever would, to be honest. I mean, when I sell you something, I'm like, well, it's either really good or it's
all
just
of
crap.
The Halloweens.
Yeah. Well, I think my exact words are, I'm not gonna lie, some of these are just shit.
I mean, technically they all are. But that's kind of the thing. It's like, yeah, we know we're terrible, but my God, at the end is hitting as hell. Much like with superhero movie at number 4. Dan.
Okay, so for number 3 pick, I've went with a slasher film.
Shocker.
Shocker.
Surprise.
It involves a killer and a hockey mask.
Oh, yes, of course. I can't make the joke, though, because it's not Graveyard Chit Chat. So,
no, you
so
can't.
There's no continuity to the joke.
No.
Bugger.
Okay. This icon uses a machete as his weapon of choice.
Okay, it's definitely Scooby-Doo 2.
Are you just gonna ever get tired of just mentioning Scooby-Doo 2?
All of a sudden you would think the Scooby-Doo 2 is like on my list. It's not actually. In hindsight.
Okay, so I went with Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood.
I don't know
as a
anything
premise
about that one.
It is daft as hell because it's basically Jason Voorhees versus Carrie. Like,
I picked the wrong time to have a drink there. I beg your pardon.
Yeah, so there is a character, the main character in this film has a telekinetic power like Carrie. When she gets emotional, when she's angry, she starts like using this power, and this comes into light in the beginning of the film when her abusive father starts hitting her mother and she runs off into the boat, and her father's like trying to apologize on the pier, and she basically pulls the pier down with her mind, as a telekinetic person does. Father gets killed, so she has all this guilt. She goes to Camp Crystal Lake on a getaway, which was just a really terrible idea. I mean, 7 films in, and you'd think that Camp Crystal Lake would be demolished by now. The sign would just be scrapped and everything, but no. So there's some pretty corny moments in this film, but it just makes it so special.
It just makes it so special.
Yeah, there's a really cool scene when she faces up against Jason, who, by the way, looks absolutely brilliant in this film. This has got to be one of my favourite incarnations of Jason, because he's all rotted and stuff like that. All these years, he just looks absolutely vile, he's been drowned, he's been burned, he's been shot innumerable times, he's had axes in his face and all sorts. He just looks a mess. So anyway, there's a really cool shot of when she uses her telekinetic power, and basically she snaps his mask in half, and there's like this deformed face underneath it. It's like, oh, it's really cool. And it was, I think it was Kane Hodder who, like, this was his debut as Jason Voorhees as well, who is obviously a stuntman, known for playing Jason Voorhees in a lot of the later films. I think this was the first one he did. And he did a stunt where basically Jason gets set on fire. Really cool shot, but I mean, the whole premise of just basically having Carrie versus Jason Voorhees is a bit like, we're going there, but I can't really, like, you know, criticize that too much, because you kind of have to do something new with Friday the 13th. Like, you can't just constantly have teenagers go to Camp Crystal Lake, Jason Voorhees appears, teenagers get killed, there's one person left at the end. You can't do that, like, constantly. It's not gonna work. Like, at least with, like, Scream, there's a bit of a difference between that and Scream. Scream is all mystery and stuff like that. Like, this thing is just... this franchise is a bit of a mess. But yeah, that's my pick. It's thoroughly enjoyable. It's something that I do watch quite often, which is scary, really, because it's not that great, but it's a guilty pleasure nonetheless.
Much like the rest of these lists. Okay. Number 3 is... It's a Godzilla film. It's just a question as to which one, because there are a number of candidates.
Well,
there is quite a few.
Well, is it a Showa era one, or is it like
no.
modern day one?
No, it's a modern.
No, that didn't answer my question.
No, it's not. It's not a Showa era one. It's not Heisei. It's not whatever the other one is, Millennium, and it's not the. No, it's actually the Roland Emmerich helmed one from 1998, starring Matthew fucking Broderick.
Oh,
as Godzilla.
Oh yeah! Oh bloody hell, that one. Yeah, that one.
That one. I watched that film constantly, and I mean constantly. It was like the greatest film I'd ever seen in my life when I was a kid. I absolutely loved it. Just seeing Godzilla and his giant, boxy, stupid head. And his tiny, tiny
Godzilla
little
and
eyes.
His giant, boxy, stupid head. Well, what a description that is, ladies and gentlemen.
The honest trailer for that film, honestly, it has the funniest thing I've ever heard in any honest trailer, when it's just like, when it's just the narrator describing Godzilla, and he's just getting like angrier and angrier, and like even more insulting. And I think it ends with like chicken-legged piece of shit or something. Oh jeez. Sorry, I'm just having a bit of a laughing fit here. It's just like reminiscent about something that's not actually in the film.
Chickenzilla.
Chickzilla.
Chickzilla.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely god awful. It's a terrible, terrible film. Well, no, it's a terrible Godzilla film. It's not the worst monster movie I've ever seen in my life. I've seen way worse. But Matthew Broderick is, he's in the film. As is everyone else, actually. In fact,
he's in the film.
I can confirm he was seen on screen numerous times and gets top billing. So I think he's in it.
He's in the film, like. Oh dear me. Yeah, I haven't watched that film in a very, very long time, and there is good reason why I haven't, because it's absolutely awful.
The question is, do we make that the next commentary that we do? And it's just us losing the plot. No, I was flicking between this and actually King of the Monsters from a couple of years ago. But that one's that one's still a fairly well-made film. and it's still enjoyable, but 98 is on a completely different level. Like, it is remarkably stupid. Like, people wrote this. They thought, yes, let's have 2 separate scenes of him eating fish and then hurling missiles at him. And then he runs away on his chicken legs.
Yeah.
And then you have a bit where you're like...
absolutely no sense.
No, and it just decides to rip off Jurassic Park at the end with just like a load of eggs. I'm just like, mate, I know you're trying to outdo Jurassic Park. Now you're just doing Jurassic Park and it doesn't work. Anyway, it's a great film, obviously.
Yep.
It's a shame that we never got a sequel. There was actually an animated series, I think, set afterwards where he does actually fight monsters. I'm like, oh wow, you did the thing that we actually wanted to see. How cheeky of you.
Yeah.
How
naughty.
Again, to further prove how much I enjoy this film despite how terrible it is, I own it in 4K. That should be it. That should be it.
Ugh. My goodness.
How putrid. There you Regan. Halloween films as if you like some sort of god. Anyway, yes, that's my pick for number 3, Godzilla 1998. Let's see if Dan can like outdo that one for number 2.
Well, it's a damn sight better than Godzilla, I can tell you that much. Like, oh Jesus, it's definitely better than that Godzilla film, I'll tell you that. This is Scary Movie, the original one. Funny we was mentioning spoofs because I went with a spoof.
What a coincidence.
Scary Movie. What a coinky dink. I know. Right. This film is like my ultimate film for just having a little snooze. It's just perfect. You just put it on, you just have a little nap. It's just perfect.
Is that actually good though? Well, yeah, actually, because it's like we really were supposed to. But wow, that's definitely a way to describe it.
Yeah. Oh, I don't watch it for like any of the characters though. I just watch it to have a nap.
Are there actually I don't think there's any characters in this. There is caricatures for sure.
I've seen this a numberable amount of times, and it is very lewd. It just basically takes the piss out of Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer, but it's brilliant. Like, there's some really fun moments, especially with the Scream side of it. I don't really know too much about I Know What You Did Last Summer, so I can't really say that I know too much about what that spoof stuff is all about. I know there's, like, obviously they kill somebody, they try to get rid of his body, and he comes back. That's all I know. Yeah, but with the Scream stuff, like, they basically use, like, the whole Scream premise of the killer rings, and this character who is meant to be Drew Barrymore is making popcorn, and like the popcorn thing in the pan just starts getting bigger and bigger. And when I think it's like later in the film, Sydney obviously gets a call. Well, Cindy in this one, Cindy gets a call, and the killer's like arse is hanging out from behind the sofa. It's like I can see you, and the killer's like, just turn around.
Yeah.
And of course they have the bedroom scene, which is just no. It's so immature. I'm just so immature for laughing as hard as I do with it. Yeah, that's Scary Movies. That was my second pick. It's a good little spoof film, and it's just perfect for having a nap. Like
that's as like descriptions for Scary Movie go. I've never heard of it. It's like it's perfect to like snooze to. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
No. Number two, which some would consider to be shit.
Well,
which it is.
I automatically know what you've went for.
No. You'd know.
You've clearly went for Halloween 3, Season of the Witch.
I actually have. No. Funny, but I always forget that film actually happened, so I can't actually put it on the list until now because I've just remembered it exists.
It's not really a guilty pleasure. It's just not a pleasure at all. Like,
no, it's just guilt for watching it. And no, I've gone from a beautiful film from the year of our Lord 2001. It's one of the greatest films ever made. In fact, it was actually the first film to feature The Rock himself. Oops.
Right.
This is The Mummy Returns.
Oh, I should have known. I should have known. Oh yeah, that is that's a film.
It was released in cinemas. It made some money at the box office. Some people reviewed it. Some people watched it. Ergo, it's a film. And thank you for listening to my TED Talk on how films work. Pretty short, to be honest. No, I knew The Mummy Returns had to end up on here because my God, is this such a blast to watch from like start to finish. And again, I get it. It's awful in a variety of ways. Visually, especially towards the end when The Rock is actually rivaling himself in Black Adam for the worst visual effects of a Rock you've ever seen.
Well, you know, the thing is though, he's not really The Rock, he's just plasticine. Because that's all that thing looks like. He just looks like a plasticine scorpion.
As far as I know, actually, with that actual scene, he was never actually on set. I'm like, well, no, of course.
Yeah, that's why it looks...
You really ever expected him on set outside of his one day of filming? I mean,
yeah, I think I read somewhere that, like, it looks the way it does because they could never, like, fit him in for, like, a whatchamacallit, like, basically to get him in and to get, like, his model ready for CG. They didn't have that because he was, like, away doing whatever, like, wrestling tour or whatever. And so they basically had to just improvise. Yeah.
So basically, he was too busy pretending to punch someone to actually come onto set to pretend to punch someone.
Yeah.
This is how just like. Ugh.
I mean, in a nutshell, yes.
I fucking hate The Rock. But I think there are like some saving graces in this film. I think the bus sequence is actually really damn good. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I do like that one. I do like that sequence.
Yeah, I think Jonathan and Alex is like a comedy double act is actually brilliant. I love that. I think Alex is actually really good in this film. It's a shame that he went American/Australian in the third film. That's a pity.
Let's just pretend that there is no third film. Let's just pretend.
I actually quite like it.
No,
oh, you're wrong, Regan.
No, you are. You're wrong. Like,
am I really? Is that so? Because number one is actually The Mummy 3. It's not. No,
what's the third one called?
Honestly,
Tomb of the Emperor Dragon or something like that, isn't it?
Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, you absolute amateur.
Well, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor turd is what it is.
There is no need for that, Dan. At least say The Mummy turd of the Dragon Emperor, honestly. God, you think he'd only seen that film once?
Well, I did, and it was enough.
Yeah, you did. And you hated it, and I was like, oh... I quite like it in places if I'm honest. I'm just gonna go a little bit.
I watched half of it and then I was so goddamn sick of my life that I just started playing bass while it was on. That's how sick of my life I was.
That seems fair. Yeah, unbelievably stupid and way too long, frankly. I think it's like 2 hours and 10 or 11 minutes or something. I'm like, oof.
Yeah, it is
you
really
feel
quite a stretch. Like, yike.
Yeah, just like a bit of a wee stretch. But yeah, I can't deny I have so much fun with it. Every single time I watch it. Obviously, I still preferred the first film. That one's actually like brilliant. Second one.
The first one is really good, and considering that I went into it like really quite late as well. I don't love it nearly as much as you do. I think it's good, but like, you know,
I'll accept that.
Yeah, I'll take that.
But yeah, this one I just knew had to be on this list because I just love it. I love it so much.
Mm-hmm.
But now we've reached like the tipping point
The tipping points.
Now, again, I know that my pick, Dan hates the film, so it's funnier. But I cannot fathom at all, especially considering it's horror. Okay, look, is your number one I've actually seen?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Shit. Do I hate this film?
No.
So it's not Terrifier 2.
No.
Thank God. Phew. Is it a slasher?
No. I don't think you're going to get it, actually, and you're going to kick yourself when you find out.
I've seen like 1,300 films, so it's
you
gonna be here a while if I just run them through.
What's that from A?
Okay. What's your number one guilty pleasure film?
Right, I will say before this, I do have a couple of honourable mentions that I was going to put as my number one.
Oh, how nice.
Now, this one, I don't really know why this is on here. This is Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Like, this film is absolutely...
What the hell happened to you?
Awful, dude, right? But I really like the idea of they go in like the alien life direction for once. It's not just about like digging up tombs and this stuff for once. So I quite like that. It's just a shame about the rest of the film. Second one was going to be The Mummy, the 1999 one. Because again, I don't really love it as much as you do.
If you actually put that on your list, you are actually getting sacked.
And I was like, well, it's like, yeah, it's good, but I wouldn't really say it's a guilty pleasure. Like, neither is Indiana Jones. It's not a pleasure at all. In fact, it's just awful. So this is a film. Now, no honorable mentions. That's them done. This is a film that we have mentioned innumerable amount of times.
Oh shit!
In joking, more or less.
Oh. Oh, it's like listening to our Evil Dead episode on Graveyard Chit Chat and just watching you just slowly sink in your chair when you're like, oh no, he's gonna say something bad about the first Evil Dead, and I'm gonna hate him for the rest of the time. Because
all I can see is just your head.
Yes.
Okay. Shall I just put you out of your misery?
Yes, hurry up, please.
This is Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed. You okay there?
No. We were so close to having the same film on this list.
Oh no.
No. It's not on. It's fine. But, ooh. Have you just done that to just spite me, even though I actually quite like that film?
Yes and no. Look, after recently rewatching this, after like God knows how many years of not seeing it, I just remembered like how, like, look, it's pretty naff. I'm not gonna lie, but it's so fun to watch. Like, it really is. I mean, I've loved this film since I was a kid, and I still think it's actually better than the first one because it's just daft as hell.
Yeah, I don't know if I like them both fairly equally.
Yeah.
If I'm honest,
I think that the first one though is just a little bit more of a horror film, whereas this is just more comedy, if anything. I mean, there's some very odd dialogue in that film. We'll say.
Yes, there is.
There really
it's glorious.
Is. It's glorious. I mean, like, favourite bits are when the like Shaggy and Scooby are basically trying to run away from the one-eyed skeletons, and they they make themselves into a sled. I just find that always hilarious. Like 25 years on, I'm still absolutely wetting myself at that because it's so funny. Yeah, I mean, there's not really much more I can say because it's a fun childhood film. That's all I can really give information on. It's pretty naff. It's a film. That's all I'll say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it is a film. It's a glorious film.
And the guy that wrote that is going to be spearheading the DC universe now, and that's actually a good thing. Oof, yeah, I went there.
That means we've got the potential for a Scooby-Doo cameo.
I really, really hope so. Well, considering it's the same studio that decided to cancel the sequel to Scoob, and rightfully so, because...
Yeah.
Now, you see, at least with yours, I like that film. I still like it. I really enjoy that one. You hate this one. Like, you actually hate
well,
it.
there's different levels of, like, hate.
Hate.
Right, so it's just hate, okay.
Yeah.
really, really, like, you know, broadening the,
the term of hate.
Yeah.
This film is from 2004. It's got a bit of James Bond. It's got a bit of Indiana Jones. It's got a little bit of The Mummy. Got a bit of there.
It's Van Helsing, isn't it?
Yes.
I should have known.
I should have known. And he's now the same height as Yoda. And he wishes to be as old as Yoda.
Terrible film it is.
Another Van Helsing.
Shit film it is.
There's a TV series. Wow. That's harsh.
Oh, God.
Okay, look. I get it. Again, I absolutely understand why this film is hated. Okay, I totally get it. But you know what? I just don't care.
I don't care.
I do not care. I watched this film probably about as often as I did Dog Soldiers when I was younger, and that is quite a few times a year, to be honest.
Oh yeah, just a few, you know.
Yeah, and I've been able to push it back to like once a year, maybe twice if I'm feeling cheeky. I don't own this in 4K though, if I'm honest. But that's also because it's actually quite difficult to get a hold of for like a respectable price for a film that's
a film that's like 19 years old.
19 years. Oh, it's the 20th anniversary next year. Oh no, Dan. Now that is a future episode. Just ready.
Oh
no.
No.
No, it's fine. I will just review it myself.
For clarification, right? This isn't like the worst film I've ever seen.
Not be.
I really don't like it, but it's not quite at that level where it's stooping at like the half-star mark. It's not quite there. It's just 1 star.
Oh, well, that's alright then, isn't it?
Yeah. Only good thing about that film was the steampunk Frankenstein. The rest is just no.
I mean, Hugh Jackman and his confused accent is pretty entertaining. Like, is he English? Is he American? Is he Australian? Is he French at one point? I'm like, which one are you?
He's just a bit of everything, to be honest.
Yeah. And you've got David Denham, I think it is. David Denham or David Wenham, who's also in 300. Like a couple of years later with his CGI abs. And you just kind of start thinking, is he like a friar? Does he look like that underneath his robe as well? Because that would be quite funny. I'm just getting a face from Dan. There you go.
Context. Does he look like that beneath his robe? I don't really want to find out. I don't really want to find out, being honest.
First, Dan.
Please. I don't want to see your spear.
Oh, God, Dan. If you keep on laughing like that, as you're vaping, I think you're going to start chewing through it. If you haven't already.
Yeah, it's a film.
It is. It's also really, really long. It doesn't need to be.
Oh, it's so. It does not need to be as long as it is. Like, it is. I think that's probably why I don't like it that much. I mean, like, there's a lot in that film I don't like. The runtime does not help it. It really does not.
No, for sure. And again, it is ridiculously stupid. Way too long. But for me, it's like, it's still just a lot of fun.
Well, I suppose if you've watched it like as many times if you watched Dog Soldiers, you're kind of gonna like it.
Yeah, I mean, you'd think I'd have like a bit of a fan thing for like werewolf stuff. Well, I do, if I'm honest. But
I mean, you've subjected yourself to like some very interesting werewolf films over the last couple of years. Let's face it. Werewolf Castle.
Yeah. A werewolf in England. An American Werewolf in Paris. And obviously the worst one, American Werewolf in London. Ooh. Obviously I'm joking. Christ. But yeah, this one I've always loved, to be honest. It's obviously like another Stephen Sommers one as well, and I mean, like, for me, I think the reason why I love it is because, yeah, it's completely over the top, and it just hurls every single like famous Universal monster thing you could want. But that's exactly that. It's an absolute fan thing for sure. And to be honest, I do really like the version of Frankenstein's monster in this. I do really love Richard Roxburgh as Dracula as well. He's just absolutely gnawing on the scenery, much like a vampire would. And pretty much all the action scenes in the film, I think, barred like the very first one not the first one, but like the first one with Van Helsing and Notre Dame. They're all just a lot of fun, to be honest. But as I say, it is way too long. And I totally see why no one liked this, and I totally see why it nearly bombed, and why it never got a sequel, and how we were this
I
close.
It did get a sequel. I'm sure it got a sequel.
It got. I think there was like I think it was like a video game or something. It was like a movie tie-in or something. But there was supposed to be a remake, and this was before The Mummy was announced in 2017. And initially it sounded like it was going to be Tom Cruise playing Van Helsing, and you're like, no. Like, absolutely not.
It's a little, like, short. It's a 30-minute short by Sharon Bridgman.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. It's basically like a little prequel before it. It's called Van Helsing, The London Assignment.
Yay.
I mean, I've got no interest in watching it at all. But if you want the plot summary, it tells of the events before the film, in which a monster hunter, Gabriel Van Helsing, travels to London to investigate a series of horrific, decidedly supernatural murders being committed by a mad scientist, Dr. Jekyll, in the form of his evil alter ego, Mr. Hyde. Ooh.
Yeah, I don't care. I didn't watch it, / listen to it, / however you're supposed to view it. But yeah, I mean, this one has always been like my number one, and again, it's a difficult film to sell to anyone, frankly.
Yeah.
But because I've been subjected to it at least 47
but
times.
I suppose so. If you've been like watching it since whenever you began watching Dog Soldiers, like, I only watched it once, and that was like a few years ago. It honestly once was enough for me. So maybe if I watched it like ages and ages ago, maybe I might have liked it, or even just, you know, give it a little bit more mercy in terms of likability. But no,
yeah, I think it would be I think it would certainly be a struggle for me now if I hadn't seen it. If I watched it now for the first time, I'd probably be really harsh on it. Yeah, or maybe I wouldn't be. Maybe I've either softened in my old age or gotten more cynical. I don't know which one.
Maybe I've softened a bit.
No, I haven't. Yeah, that is my pick for number one, and that is our top 5 guilty pleasure films. of varying degrees of comedy and offence, quite frankly. Scooby-Doo 2. I didn't think you were going to go for Scooby-Doo 2 if I'm honest. I really wasn't.
You see, and I'll say this now before we wrap up, like, it was so hard to pick number one because I had like 4 set, and even picking the fourth one was hard enough. So it's like, I need something that, like, I don't find like absolutely appalling, but it's not like exceptional either. So I need something like in between. So I went on Letterboxd in my profile, and I was like, well, what have I rated like 3 stars? Because like 3-star films to me are like in the middle. They're neither like great nor terrible. They're just like in the middle. So then I was looking through, and then Scooby-Doo 2, I was like, there we go, sorted.
Oh god. Yeah, that's still quite surprising, but I can take it. But yes, that has been our episode on guilty pleasure films. I really hope you enjoyed it. Next week we are returning to the Halo franchise for what feels like the first time in about 17 years. Feels like a very long time since we spoke about Combat Evolved.
Been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. We'll be delving into the quite polarizing sequel with Halo 2. As ever, much like with every other episode of the Real Podcast, it's safe for episode 1 to 3 for other reasons. Everything is available on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Audible, Amazon Music, Podbean, Pocket Casts, and Castbox. No Apple Podcasts still, because screw that. I'll have to find another one, actually. Is there like an 8th one? I'm actively trying to think.
Probably. I mean, there's loads. There are loads of hosting sites.
There's so many. So many to milk. But yes, if you enjoy this sort of thing, of course, a follow would be fantastic. Any reviews for the episodes, that'd be grand. Spotify as well. Occasionally I'll put up a little Q&A bit at the end. So definitely check that one out. Obviously, if this isn't the sort of thing that you enjoy, first of all, if you've been listening to the entire episode and you don't like this sort of thing, you either hate yourself or you're really committed to changing your mind, so thank you, I guess. I suppose I could have just put this at the very beginning, but let's just do things a little bit differently again. But yeah, follow us on social media, Instagram and various letterboxds, of which Dan occasionally updates with only horror films, because he doesn't watch anything else.
I'm allergic to other genres.
Yeah, I know you are. Just like comedy. Superhero just kind of makes him tired.
Wait, it either makes me very tired or it just makes me like kind of gag, like when
annoyed.
a cat has a hairball. Just
wretched. Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sound effects in like in this episode. It's brilliant. Are you sure that you couldn't have been like a Foley artist or something?
Could have been.
But yes, thank you very much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed it. And we'll be back next week for our Halo 2 talk. So that should be interesting. Until then, it's goodbye from Dan.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. Goodbye.